The Private Label Pod with your host Paul Mooney, brought to you by Private Label People.
You just listen and leave the rest up to us.
Welcome to the Private Label Pod. I am Paul Mooney. Chinese New Year, that wonderful time of the year when we Amazon sellers get to slide on a warm pair of slippers. Put our feet up and relax, right? Well, not according to Robert and Ali. I sat down with our seller savants to find out how best to use the New Year break to set us off on the best footing for the rest of the year.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question, or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Gents, it's currently Chinese New Year, but that will be coming to an end within the next lot of weeks. What does that bring about, the end of Chinese New Year?
Well, it brings about quite a lot of, I guess you would call it re-engagement. You know, everything starts again, almost like the proverbial factories, you know, turning on their production lines. Everything kind of kicks back into gear again. And it's always been something, you know, positive from my standpoint, that there's so much more that can be done rather than inside that period between post Chinese New Year and pre Chinese New Year and post Chinese New Year. That area in itself does have a very important timeline inside the business, which, you know, we can talk about today as well. But yeah, I think it's just really the kicking back off of everything. Ali, would you agree or add anything in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, you know, I think there's a bit of a misconception that there's a definitive stop and start time, you know, for the whole month of February generally. But I think we've spoken about this quite recently. Like, you're going to have different departments that come and go during that period, and you might have like the sales team that might come in earlier than the production team. And then logistics, you know, dependent on the freight forwarder, there's always going to be a difference in start times and finish times. So yeah, it's definitely a good talking point. There's a lot that kind of goes in it. It definitely brings a lot of, say, things we need to be aware of whenever we're projecting our orders and our reorders. So yeah,
I think too, Ali, you know, if we dial it back a little bit to the pre-Chinese New Year area, I think people have this thought that things stop getting produced at a certain time. And that's not exactly accurate, because if you've got a production time of 30 days, they're not going to get it done in 15 just because Chinese New Year's coming up. You know, you've got to be prepared prior to that, so that on the run up to that they have the ability to get it finished, get it out the door, get it into a warehouse or a ship well in advance of that final day in terms of the production. But I definitely concur with you. It's not like it's just a production line. There's so many other areas, so many other departments that these Chinese businesses have, which mimic, you know, businesses here in the West. I
think you know, planning ahead of time is definitely a key point. You know, especially when we've got the rest of the world, not just private label sellers, but the rest of the world who are importing from China, you know, putting in things that might be a little bit last minute as well. So you got to think that there are generally going to be a queuing system as well whenever we're looking at productions. You know, we're generally quite small fish whenever we're dealing with these sorts of MOQs. So expecting the supplier to pause everything and cater for your needs is definitely not the right way to move.
Yeah, especially whenever you could be competing with giants in the industry, and you know, for whether it's plastics or silicone or wood. You know, if Sony or Apple or one of these guys come in looking a bit of a rushed order, I'm gonna hazard a guess that they're gonna go ahead of you in the pecking order. So, you know, preparation is absolutely everything.
I quite like it because it gives you a bit of a natural reset, but people get a little bit worried about it because it's this sort of almost like a 1 month block period. But we also ourselves celebrate things like Christmas in this part of the world, and then, you know, we have the July holidays here where we're based, but in England it's pretty much, somebody could be off for the whole month of August or 2 weeks in August. And in France, it's the same. It's places throughout Europe. So the Chinese New Year really centralises it and really gives you and the whole industry a chance to reset. And as you say, once it's been reset, then it's back to normal. But during that reset period, it allows the likes of yourself, Ali, to do more research, and it allows shipping companies to to keep going and catch up there a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always something that you could be doing. Does Chinese New Year impact our reports and the way we report and doing the optimisations on the listings? Of course not. So, while you might not be able to have that one-on-one conversation with your supplier for a couple of weeks, it might be a really good time to get your business back in order. Utilize that time where you don't need to, in my case, wake up so early to speak to suppliers. Really free up some time to get my reports in order. Just look at each and every single SKU in each marketplace and see, are they performing to the ability they should be? And if not, do I need to optimize things? Do I need to look at the data that I've been collecting as well?
I think too, it's the nice thing that I like about it is it's a bit of a shock treatment to businesses such as ourselves, because we can't just react because of an emergency. It's like, oh, I'm running out of stock, I'll just pick up the phone and reorder. Because if that's the case, if that's the way that your business is running, then you're not planning, you're not preparing, you're not really reporting on it. And not having the ability to do that actually helps you longer term, that you've got to plan for this, say, month off, but also the month prior to it for production. And also as well, like when this ends, it doesn't just like end Chinese New Year and everybody is back in the building and then you're the only order that's sitting there. Number one, you've got staff coming back from different regions in the country, so the staff population, I guess you would say, inside the company doesn't just go back to 100%. It gradually builds up. And also, they have had a number of weeks where the orders are still coming in. The sales staff that Ali was talking about are still speaking with people, getting orders. So that's a very busy period of time for them. So you should be prepared for that as well. But it is that thing of, again, we said it before and we'll say it again, it's the failing to prepare to fail.
Obviously, with so many goods coming from that part of the world, we've obviously had things that have impacted upon that in the past, the likes of the COVID pandemic. There's been certain shipping issues at times too with the traditional routes to the market. Do you ever get concerned that it's maybe too central upon China, for instance, in one country? Is there contingencies that could be looked at there? It's probably a natural worry for somebody that sells on Amazon to have, isn't it?
I think it's a natural worry, but I also feel like it's unfounded because there's many other things that you could worry about. If you're a natural worrier, you will find something else to worry about. Could Amazon shut down as opposed to China shutting down? They could. Could imports be stopped completely? Could the US dollar collapse? Could world global economies collapse? All of these things. You could worry yourself sick. I've been through, God now, over 25 years, and there's always been something. It was Brexit not that long ago. Like, the way that people were speaking about Brexit was that the UK was going to sink into the North Sea, right? Whether it was good or bad, or whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, that's another matter. But people got so obsessed with it being, finality. Then whenever you have a presidential election in the US, which is happening this year, people get exactly the same thing. And regardless of what side of the divide that you're on, like, the global economies keep on rolling. It's like, will China's manufacturing go down? Possibly. Will India's pick up? Possibly. But these are worries that, like, you've got absolutely zero control over them. So I just say, let's get on with it.
Yeah, I think there's an excuse for everyone in business, isn't there, really? I mean, anything can happen in the greater business
If you
world.
need that as an excuse not to do this, I think you probably find better ones, more exciting ones. Come on, stretch the boundaries a little bit. Let's get a wee bit more exciting as to what obstacle is going to stop you getting into business.
And it's also worth pointing out these things come along, but they tend to repair themselves also. I mean, certain things have happened throughout history that,
Well, you mentioned pandemic in terms of like shipping times, production times, all of this different stuff. Did it have an impact? Of course it did. But those people, like, number one, you're all in the same boat with everybody else, quite literally, right? Or not in the same boat whenever it comes to non-shipments or this, that, and the other. But every single person who was either selling or using, whether that was online, offline, anything else, they were all exactly in the same situation. And those people who planned better succeeded better. It's just that way. The goods still got manufactured, but maybe it took 2 or 3 times as long. The goods got shipped, maybe it took 2 or 3 times as long, but they still happened. And you'd also mentioned some other things about like shipping lines and stuff like that. It's happened in the past. They'll happen again. Did they get delivered? Yes, they did. Just took a little bit longer. Had to go a different route. Also, there's been like production things, but it does, as you said, it gets itself resolved.
Ali, whenever you started dealing with suppliers in China, has it become easier to deal with suppliers in China now? Do you feel they've shifted shape a little bit in terms of how they work with people from this part of the world? Do they make it more simplified?
Yeah, no, I think it's either one of the two things. Either I've got better at the communication side of things, or they've adapted. I think probably more the former. Just kind of understanding that English isn't their first language most of the time, so really trying to adapt with how we want to phrase things so that they would understand. So I think I feel like the communication as a whole has gotten a lot more straightforward. But again, I think that's down to more experience on this side. I remember writing my first ever outreach to a supplier and getting a response and feeling so nervous, thinking, oh my God, a supplier actually got back to me. Now what do I do?
Read the next page of the manual.
Yeah, I haven't got that far yet.
Did it take you a while to settle on one? Did you find one that you could trust fairly quickly, or did you have to go through a few different ones?
Yeah, definitely. For the first product, in fact, we were doing 2 products. For the first SKU, we were looking at a number of different suppliers. I think I was in communication with about 2 or 3 for each of the two products. Sampled from each one, and yeah, probably overanalyzed it more than I should have, looking back. But that's completely normal. But yeah, absolutely. I don't think there was an issue in terms of trustable. I think people get hung up on kind of being scammed, because obviously they're finding suppliers online. Oh, what happens if somebody's posing as a supplier and they just take my money in and run away from it? But really, certain platforms, if you're thinking about like Alibaba, even Amazon as well, they put a lot of things in place to prevent a lot of this from happening. And you have to also understand that these factories want your business as well. So as long as you can do your due diligence, then there shouldn't be any issues.
I think though as well, Ali, I mean, now the way what you're just talking about, if you think back to whenever you were starting off, you probably had those concerns as well. Even though those platforms had those different things there already, they have improved on it as well. But could you cast your mind back and think about dealing with somebody like yourself now, back then, to take all that worry away? So it's sort of like if you had have had a supplier network where you were able to go to somebody and say, this is what I'm looking at, that takes all of that concern away, where it's like that person that you're speaking to, Ali 1, Ali 2, or Ali 2016 versus Ali 2024. Ali 2016, being able to liaise with Ali 2024, take all those worries away and just deal with him, as opposed to having to deal with suppliers the first time and this, that, and the other. It would put you more at ease, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also all of the nuances. Whenever we're speaking to suppliers, we're not just finding out the price of certain things. We need accurate information for us to run the numbers and make sure that the numbers and the order is going to be profitable. So absolutely, having one port of call with an expert who has already established relationships with suppliers, I would much rather go down that route.
I think too, it's like going back. Sure, you can have a checklist of all the different things that you got to do, but every time you're checking it off, you're wondering, is there something else here? Should I be reading between the lines? Should I be checking something up? But then, whenever you've got somebody else by your side who's done that checklist over and over and over again, it really does put you then at ease. It'd be a bit like, tonight if we went down to the airport, if me and you were flying the plane by ourselves, it wouldn't be great, even if we had the manual there, right? But if you were sitting in the co-pilot, it'd be fun, it'd be fun, all right. But if you were sitting in the co-pilot seat beside a very experienced pilot, you wouldn't feel anywhere near as daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's, even if you went and done some training, in fact, I was in the cadets and we used to fly small aircraft, which was a lot of fun as well. But it's like knowing how to do it, but also being prepared for those nuanced situations. If we're looking at that analogy of flying a plane, yes, you can learn how to maneuver all the buttons and the joystick, I believe is what it's called. What happens if there's different weather conditions that you've never experienced before? How are you going to navigate through that? So absolutely having somebody with experience who has seen a lot of different landscapes and weather conditions. So yeah, I think that makes complete sense.
It's quite natural to get worried about dealing with somebody so far away and a different climate geographically, but it's also worth remembering they're trying to run a business too, and they want to build a relationship with you, and you have to be professional, and they want to be professional. They want to create something that's long standing. Is it worth somebody dropping you a DM, Ali, to ask for your supplier contact details and offering you some money?
Absolutely. Everybody's more than welcome to utilize our processes, our network partners as well. So we have all sourcing, which is the area that I'm one of the areas that I'm in charge with as well. So, and I'm currently working on a number of clients' requests with products and utilizing our network partners and our economies of scale as well in order to reduce that overall expense, that cost of goods sold, thus increasing their gross profit.
I think whenever you look at it as well, as you mentioned, Paul, it's not just proximity or geography. There's cultural differences that can make people a little bit nervous. Am I going to say the right thing, or am I going to say something that's, I'm going to offend somebody? You've got currencies. You've got, that whole thing of sending money across the globe to another country, which is so far removed, can still be a bit of a worry. And I know Ali covered that as well. You've got the checklists. You've got a whole pile of different things. And while it can be navigated, it's also great to be able to put your emotions and your mind at rest, to be able to say, tell you what, I'll just let somebody who's done this, flown this journey many, many times before, I'll let them do it on my behalf, because that part of the process is then going to be easier. My mind's going to be set a lot more at rest, and I can get on with some of the other bits inside the business, potentially going and researching something at exactly the same time as your next product is being produced under the glaring eyes of Ali Rasool.
Well, so the Chinese businesses have obviously been awarded for their hard work throughout the year by having this little break. We had the Grammys last night, and some awards handed out there. Of course, if somebody was to win an award in private label people over the next few weeks or months for their endeavours, what would you give an award for? Is there something that you would bring to mind that?
I thought you were going to ask me a question about the Grammys, and I was going to say I didn't even realise what night it was, and I don't even know what the Grammys are for. That's how bad I am. Were you talking about like the team, or are you talking about the partners, or what?
Partners, yeah. Is there anything that springs to mind that you think somebody maybe doesn't do at this moment in time that you would like to see them doing more of?
Something that they don't do?
Yeah. Maybe they don't give feedback enough. Maybe they don't.
Oh, I can think of who would be given award for certain things. Okay,
If there's somebody listening and they're saying, "I want to win an award and I want to be the best private label person that you have," is there something that springs to mind?
In terms of engagement, Ricardo Cadet.
Oh yeah,
Engagement is 100%. He's on the streams every time. He's engaged. He loves to use the GIFs in the chat box as well. I think engagement is one of those important things. And I remember early on in my journey, just attending as many streams as possible and asking as many questions as possible and not being shy that some of your questions might be a little bit dumb. Just doing everything you can to get the information you need. So I would give my award to Ricardo.
There you go, Ricardo. You've been name dropped.
I think to name drop another one is Sue Sherwood for me. It's more to do with reporting. Me being the reporting geek, I always see Sue's reports very up to date, right on the buzzer in terms of on the day. That tells me a lot. That tells me a lot about the person. Tells me that taking the business in its entirety very, very serious. And it kind of comes down to something that was implemented inside the Circle group, which was activity score. And I would encourage everybody to keep an eye on their activity score. I can bet you a pound to a penny that both those people have a very, very high activity score. And because it really is about engagement. That's what it's about. If I could tie in the reporting into that activity score, I certainly would. So there's another name dropped for our Grammy Awards, Paul. Well,
we obviously have some events and people come to those, and sometimes you see off the back of that a lot more engagement also. I know the likes of Tracy's been at an event recently, and Tracy's been great on Circle and getting involved. So I'll name drop somebody too, so that nobody's getting left out. Though somebody will feel left out, so apologies that they do, but.
Well, the credits could go at the end for everybody else, couldn't it? The Endeavour Award.
Well, at least we don't have Jay-Z standing up giving off.
Oh, that's a shame.
But anyway, guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question, or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Thanks to Robert and Ali for stopping by for a chat and making sure we don't waste that valuable couple of weeks by kickstarting the year with productive preparation. Here's to a successful 2024 for all of you private label people. Until next time.